Hey, what's up, good people? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing representing the squad today. And I'm going to be going over a variation of my Zefras. This is actually the build that I'm probably going to take to Nats. I've been tweaking with it a lot, like just little minor changes here and there. It's just all off of experience. Every time I duel, I normally learn something new about this deck that I didn't realize. That's something that keeps me intrigued with this deck, is that I'm still learning. Like, it's crazy. You think that you know a deck, and then the longer you play it, you're like, dang, I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know I could do that. The deck's really savage, honestly. It has a really solid Sky Striker Trickstar matchup. Awesome Goki matchup and Spiral matchup if Spirals are still, relevant. Pretty much, some of the best decks in the meta, this deck. Like, honestly, you just... For Gokis, you just make Chao Feng and win. But it's solid. It doesn't really have any bad matchups for this format, and that's what I'm grateful for. I think Ultra guys can kind of be tit for tat. It just depends. But ultimately, this deck has no bad matchups, and that's one of the reasons why I really like it. Very versatile, flexible. There's a lot of different things that you could do with the deck. The builds are always just up to your personal preference. But this is the build that I'm tweaking on right now. So we have 3 copies of my Anger Translator. This card actually, the more I realize it, every time I see this card, it's a negate. It's a counter trap. It's an Electrum Turbo card. It's whatever I need it to be at the moment. Like I was saying, I'm learning more and more with this deck, and I realize every time I see this card in my hand, I either have a negate or an Electrum Turbo card. It's ridiculous, dude. And need our mind. This is the best scale. It can turn itself into high or into low, and it's generic. It doesn't restrict what you pendulum summon. You can make it a 1 scale, you can make it a 7 scale. Whatever scale you have in your hand, this will complement that. So it's like you'll never break as long as you have this card. Then you have 3 Zefra Neo. This is the lifeblood of the deck. It's pretty much going to search out everything. You have 6 of these. These are searchers, and they search out your searchers, and then you have 12 other ways to get to these. So you have 12, 15, 18 searchers. This deck is extremely, ridiculously consistent. If I played 40 cards, right, half my deck would be searchers. The deck's really consistent. It's more consistent than Trickstars and or Sky Strikers separately. Sky Striker's best starter card is probably either Engage or Hornet Jones. That's 6. Trickstars have the 9 ways to get Candina. Combine that, that's what, 15? That still doesn't compare. This deck is mad consistent, yo. It's really good. Something that's really cool that you can do with this is because it's an on-summon effect, you can mask the chain links. Like if you're pendulum summoning this and, the other Zefras, you can just set up this as chain link 1 so they can't Ash Blossom it. It's really cool. Then you have your cards that are going to help you to out cards going second, help you to out boards, and they just also potentially snipe, just kind of get things out of the way, bait negations as well. It depends. I like this one a lot more right now because it hits sets. It forces your opponent to activate the scapegoats and the reincarnations under a not comfortable kind of state of mind, where they're not activating because they want to, they're activating it because they have no choice or they're gonna lose it. And that's really cool. That's how you start winning. Because once you force the scapegoat, they kind of lose their in-phase win con, and you just kill all the tokens. I like this card because he's a Trident. He hits any face-up cards, so he's kind of gonna be better most of the time. But right now, Sky Striker Trickstars are everywhere, bro. Literally, they're when I say everywhere, bro, they are everywhere. And this card is really good against him. Not only is he 19, he applies pressure, but he forces the reincarnations and the scapegoats and whatever else back row that doesn't even matter. But basically, Trickstars cannot get over any 1900 beaters without going into the extra deck, and that's a really sad story to tell. They're Brick Stars to me. They just don't really do anything. I've never really been a fan of Trickstars, but I guess every deck gets to have its time, because who would have thought Trickstars would end up being meta, like the best deck? They've always been around, and they dodged every ban list. I don't know how, but yeah. Then we have Zefraxi. Zefraxi turns all your guys into tuners. You can make level 7s and level 9s. That's what I make the most. I like this card because it also helps you to dodge the Ash Blossom. And it makes Chao Feng. Chao Feng with Earths, your opponent cannot activate Earth Monsters effects. So if you happen to be a Goki or a Spiral player, kind of out of luck. Especially Gokis. It's just all Earths. Isolde is probably the only thing that they can resolve. And I might just let it resolve. I won't even waste a Jackal King or a counter trap on it, because I feel like, what is Isolde going to get for you? You're not going to get any searches. I'll save it for a firewall if you actually make it. But yeah, really good. This card's amazing. And something that's some people might disagree or agree on. Most people play more than one of this. I find like I've tested this out. I have 3 copies of this card. I've tested it in different numbers, but every time I resolve this card, it goes to the bottom of the deck. So it always goes into the deck. You never lose it. It's always in rotation. So you kind of just don't really need to play more than one. It also gives you more space by only playing one, which I find to be good. And this card's pretty niche. I like it because it's not hard once per turn. All the other guys are. This one adds from extra deck to hand. You can normally add and then send it off, make an Electrum, pimp summon it, add again. We don't pendulum summon, we pimp summon. And this card, it dodges like it dodges Droll, it dodges Ash. It's really good. And adding from the extra deck to hand allows you to make a bigger pendulum summon. And if you're able to pendulum summon like 3 to 4 monsters, you can make 3 to 4 negates because this guy already comes out. Him and Jackal King automatically come out. That's 2 negates. And then your other Electrum can make the Vortex play. That's 3. And you can stack a hand trap if you want to do a synchro play. So it's mad insane, bro. You would look at Zefras and not think that they can make boards. This deck makes some nasty turn 1 boards. Like the Pendulum Unbreakable boards that people were doing when Astrograph was at 3. I'm still doing that with no Astrograph. And I'm not playing 60-card Pendulums. And I've been playing Zefras. And they're just so much better than any other Pendulum deck that I can think of. Then we have 3 Chronograph. Chronograph is actually insane. It's always been better than Astrograph, in my opinion. I've never said in one of my videos, I like Astrograph. I've always said Chrono's better than Astro. This card is the nuts. It complements another engine that I'm playing in my deck, which helps me to win games in their time. It's like, most decks can't burn, right? And then you never expect for a Zefra player to randomly in main phase burn you for 5,400, right? So like, this card is, excuse me, I'm sorry guys, I just ate dinner. This card is one of the reasons why you can just do the burn. Because what you do, your opponent calls time, you just summon Gatling Ghoul. And every card on the field times 200, that's how much damage you're taking. And then you destroy a monster, burn for its attack. So it's like, think of how Topologic Bomber Dragon attacks a monster, burns for its attack. He just destroys it. He doesn't even target. He just destroys it. And then he also burns for 200 times the number of cards on the fields, like mine and yours. I play Pendulums. I invest a lot of cards on the field. And then, like, you're playing meta, you have a lot of cards on the field. It's game. So this card helps for that. It helps to make Naruto. It's just so many good reasons why, like, this card's the nuts. Like, I gotta open with this. And if not, I'm looping it with an Electrum. Then we have 3 Cerberus. This card is really good going second against Trickstars. Because believe it or not, if you can banish a Lilybell or a Candina or a Lycoris, their engine's compact, it's small. They only play 7 monsters. If you can banish one of their monsters, they have to rely on the Candina to get their engine started back up. This deck sets up negates. You banish the Candina, or you banish the Lilybell or whatever, like, it's really hard for them to come back, especially when they're losing their reincarnation target now. So this card, just banishing monsters alone, it applies a lot of pressure because then he becomes a beater that's too big for Brick Stars. They're bricks. They're just 18, 16 vanillas that don't really do much. Like, they're cute and all, that's fine. But Cerberus is really good in that matchup. He helps you. He'll still wins going second, especially with new in-a-match procedures. He's like, think of how Gokis have Twist Cobra. This card's like a Twist Cobra on steroids. He's just not a quick effect, but he beefs himself up and he banishes monsters, which is really good. So he's the nuts going second. And he's an Electrum Turbo card, of course. Then we have 2 Jackal Kings. Helps you to break the extra link going second. Negate the Trigate, kill him. You can even out the what's it called? The Link Rebo. Or, the Mermaid. Whichever one. It just helps going first or going second. This card steals wins as well. Mythical Beast Engine. Pretty awesome. If you open Chrono Cerberus, you Cerberus for your Jackal King on resolution. Chrono special summons itself and this. And then you can have a negate established and you can continue with your plays. So like an Ash Blossom be irrelevant. Only time it would matter is like if they droll, because they could draw on the resolution of this. But like other than that, you could just negate any other hand trap after that just by leaving the Jackal King. And you could just normal make your Electrum and then he's protected because Jackal King's there. So there's ways you could play around things and it helps you a lot. Then we have 2 Dark Worms. I can't nickname him yet. I don't know what to name him, but definitely 2 Cheerios. This card's actually good. Gotta play 2 because one of them is so heartedly like dedicated to a combo that makes Calamities and I win. There's no deck that can beat Calamities. I'm sorry. True King of all Chlamydia, no monster effects, no attacking, messing up your attributes. It's a good time, man. There's like nothing beats Calamities. Scapegoat doesn't. Reincarnation does not beat Calamities. Goki Extra Link board does not beat Calamities. Nothing beats Calamities. They can't stop him. He stops them. And it prevents so many things from happening. Like, naturally, you can't even make boards under Calamities. Like, you just can't. And this is one of the reasons why. Like, this card is so good. And it's no restriction, and it's a low scale. This and Zefra are like my favorite scales because they put literally no restrictions, and I can summon anything, even level 1s. And then we have like the second best low scale, 2 purple poisons. Now, this helps to out the, what's it called? The Falcon, the Ultimate Falcon. If you ever happen to hit a, I've never hit a Waking Dragon in my life, but if you ever happen to hit one, you just purple poison, 36, bam, hit the Falcon. But this card is more important because it outs anti-spell, it outs floodgates, it helps you to out boards going second. It's very underestimated. Nobody expects you to just drop this when you're playing Zefras. They expect this in Pendulum Magicians. Purple Poison evenly still breaks extra link boards because like this can hit the Trigate, and it depends on what their board is. Yes, it does. It depends which Nightmare's there. But ultimately, Purple Poison evenly can break almost virtually any board still. To this day, it really does help a lot. So it still wins going second. It does make Jackal King and Chrono just harder to kill in general. And when you're pushing and being aggressive, this helps you to beat over stuff and out cards at the same time. So it's really good. And it's a main deck out to anti-spell. You know, you just gotta, like keep that in mind. And then we have Time Gazer. He's just a package deal with Chrono. You got 2. And then the new engine that I'm playing my deck, first and foremost, probably the best Pendulum monster, or one of the best Pendulum monsters like in the game of Yugioh, Dissolver. Even Magicians should have been playing this as a 1-of. This card's insane. Its scale effect lets you fusion summon any any dragon fusion monster. You never really use it in scale, but you can. Ultimately, it summons Vortex for negations or Gatling Ghoul just to go for wins. Like even against Trick Stars, like for example, if you they reincarnation you and then they kind of like screw your plays up. And first of all, when you're playing around reincarnation, you just set your cards. That's all you do. It's smart. But you can push, and if you didn't kill them, like if it wasn't enough damage, and then they end-phase, they try to end-phase Scapegoat, or you know that they do because they have a set, instead of giving them a turn, you just go main phase 2, make Gatling Ghoul, and then burn them for the rest of the game, you know, just like burn for game. It's insane. So like they won't even be able to resolve Scapegoat because they're dead. So this card helps you to ulticate, it helps you to set up negations. It also helps you being defensive because if your Pendulum monster's battle, he summons himself from hand. And it's even, I think it's even in the damage step. Yeah, at the start of the damage step, so that makes it harder for them to counter him. But yeah, at the start of the damage step of Pendulum monster battles, you summon him, and then that monster can't be destroyed during that battle. And then his on-field effect is broken. You fusion summon for any fusion using monsters on your field, in your hand, or in your Pendulum Zone. I always do the one in Pendulum Zone because it sets up for my Divine Strikes. If Electrum had to pop a field spell, I'll use him, fuse with the scale, Separate Train, draw 1. He's just broken, bro. And 26D, he's amazing. So these are the 3 Odd Eyes cards I play in my deck. It's basically Zefra, Magician, Odd Eyes, really. It's just a couple compact engines. I like Persona because no matter what the chain link dictates, he can always negate Isolde. He targets face-up monsters, special summon for the extra deck, and negates them for the duration of the turn. So, like, regardless of what chain link Isolde is, Isolde always gets negated, so no Octo Stretch, none of that. It stops Kagari. I can name all these extra deck monsters. It just stops Nightmare plays. It's really solid. It helps a lot. And then Synchron is probably the best, like one of the best 1-ofs in my deck. No, it is the best 1-of. Well, it's between this and the Strudel, but Synchron honestly is like a god card. It's a win condition. When you resolve this, it's like a million effects in one. There's so many different ways you can use it. Every time I resolve this card, I really like never lose. It's just so broken, and it's such a skillful card. You can't just pick up the card and just use it. You really got to know what you're doing, because this card can get you so many wins. It's crazy. It virtually can beat any deck. It really is that good. So that's it for the Pendulum aspect. Then we've got some a couple of hand traps. Well, not a couple, some hand traps. All right. We've got 3 Ash Blossoms. Spoiler alert, you can search this with different means, your field spell or your Chao Feng. So, like, I'm the only Yu-Gi-Oh player right now in this format that's searching out my hand traps. Like, Trick Stars aren't searching their hand traps. Gokis aren't searching their hand traps. People can draw hand traps, but they can't search them. I'm searching my Ash Blossoms, my friend. And I'm searching my Joel and Lockbirds. So like my ceiling is naturally higher than any deck because I can search any monster. And I establish boards full of negates as well. So going first, it's very one-sided. Trickstars don't make boards going first. They don't establish negations. They establish normal summon, set a couple pass. Gokis establish an extra link, but they don't establish a board full of negates. They have one negate. This deck establishes boards full of negates, and it searches out hand traps. A Drone Lockbird is more than enough to stop any deck in its track, but when you have Vortex, Don Dragster, Zefra Divine Strike, and Drone Lockbird in your hand, you have 3 negates plus a draw. I don't know what deck can play around that and then OTK you after that, but I guess this card's insane. Even if they have Called by the Grave, you could just negate it and then they have to pass turn, then you just kill them. So you can add these. Like, that's why it's cool to play 2, but when I go to Worlds, I'm going to do 3 Droll, 2 Ash, because Ash is at 2 for the OCG. And then finally, the card that steals a lot of wins is the Strudo. This card helps me to play going second comfortably. So people always ask, like, how does this deck do going second? This card actually helps out a lot going second because you make Vortex going second. It's not only going to bounce a monster, but it's going to provide a negation for anything that they try to interfere you with so that you can indefinitely kill them, even negating the Scapegoat. And then you've got Purple Poison. You've got your Mythical Beast engine, like the entire engine. And then the chronographs, and then you have Thubin and Saitan. So this big pile of cards, these are all, they can be used going first, but they're really good going second. Like, so if people are curious about my going second game, I'm well equipped. That's why I don't really have an issue with the dice roll most of the time. I think the only time it kind of hurts is if I get extra linked, but there's ways you could play around it. Like I said, Jackal King naturally just outs it. And then we have spells. 3 Oracle of Zefra. This field spell is actually just insane. It's the tits. It searches on activation. It's going to add a Zefra monster. And then the 2 effects that I use because my extra deck's equipped for them is the draw 1 card, discard, and then stack a monster on top of the deck. The stack a monster on top of the deck is the best effect of this field spell. People don't understand that. I think there's one other spell card in the game of Yugioh that literally searches any monster. And it's called Single Purchase, and it's not a good card. Even Left Arm Offering, yeah, it can search a spell, but it has such a high cost, and it's not worth it. This card is easy to use. It searches any monster. You put it on top of your deck, you use Electrum's effect to pop a skill, you add that monster that you stacked, and you get to get a card from your extra deck to hand. So, like, every time I make my Don Dragster or I make my Chow Fang, I stack Ash Blossom. Or if I didn't have Drone Lockbird already in my hand, I stack him, then I'll just use Electrum. So, like, if I can resolve my field spell's effect to stack, I'm not going to use Electrum's effect to draw yet. I'm going to wait till I stack because it's so much better. Like, searching your Droll, most people just, their morale gets depleted when they see you literally take a Droll from your deck, stack it, and draw it. Like, who does that? Zefra's, dude. Zefra's is like the only deck. So this field spell is insane. It actually is a negate. On activation, it's just basically a negate. And then it turns into a secondary form of disruption because it's going to get your negate because this gets you Zefra Neo. Zefra Neo gets your counter traps. And then secondary is going to get the hand trap. So this field spell can provide 2 interferences just on activation and keeping it there. Then we have Dragon's Ravine. This makes your Optimus Primes, which that's what I call Terraforming Optimus Prime. It makes them Electrum Turbo cards. So it makes your cards a lot more flexible, allowing you to either make Black Rose, outboards going second, make Don Dragster to establish boards going first, or establish Electrum before you Pendulum Summon because it's going to send Darkworm. So it makes Terraforming do a million things, right? Because Terraforming can be negate, stack a hand trap, or negate, blow a field up, establish a board. And then another tech that I'm playing is Sky Iris because I play a small Odd Eyes engine. This card, it actually plays around Spear Mode because I'll open up, like, for example, I open up Electrum, Don Dragster, Vortex very often. Or sometimes it'll be Electrum, Vortex, and then Jackal King, right? But when I'm playing against, like, Skystriker.dex, I prefer to summon Don Dragster over Jackal King because negating spells is more important. So ultimately, what you end up doing is once you have Electrum, Don Dragster, plus Vortex, you'll use the Sky Iris and pop the Electrum, and you'll add an Odd Eyes monster from your deck to your hand, or an Odd Eyes card, and then you control 2 monsters, so they cannot Spear Mode you. They can't even activate drones. Like, people tried to play me like I'm stupid, activated drones, and then tributed the drones in my 2 monsters. I was like, read the card, bro. It's whatever monsters on the field that you tribute, that's the side of the field it goes. You can't tribute from my field and your field and then give me a Spear Mode. So it inherently plays around Spear Mode. That increases my ceiling. It establishes negates. That increases my ceiling. And it also allows me to play this little auto win card called Set Rotation, which plays around evenly matched. You can't evenly me if you have a field spell. And it also stops Brick Stars from playing their light stages, because when I give them Oracle, they can't activate field spells for the rest of their life, like at all. And most people cut Jamming Waves, but if you activated Jamming Waves, I might actually feel so bad for you that I'll let it resolve, just so that I can negate your so I can negate your light stage activation anyways. But I might just not let the Jamming Waves resolve, because I feel like if I negate the Jamming Waves, you really don't have a way of playing light stages for the rest of the duel, because Cookar is going to get negated too, so you're not adding anything back. So this is an auto win against them because they rely heavily. This basically says now you have to hard draw your Kandinas, and they still get negated by Jackal King or Counter Traps or Vortex. It doesn't matter. So this it helps in that regard, and it also obviously increases your ceiling in the regards that it's going to be a negator, and it's also giving you an additional way to grab your field spells. So your spell lineup is extremely consistent. In fact, all the spells in this deck are busted. Not a single one of the spells will not result in a negate, and it's like that serious. It's not even an exaggeration. Then we have 3 Zefra Providence. This searches negates. It searches whatever trap you want it to search, or it can search a monster if you just want a bigger board, if you want to be aggressive, OTK. And it protects all of your Zefra cards from being destroyed by card effects or battles. Just if they will be destroyed, period, you banish it instead. So in the long run, it helps you to grind. And then we have 3 Dragon Shrine and a Foolish Burial, because I want to send Dark Worms and I want to send Destrudos. And these are always negates. These also increase my ceiling going second, because remember when I had that big pile of cards for going second, like the Hand Traps, the Destrudo, the Zefra Saiton, the Chronos, the Thubin, the Mythical Beasts, and the Purple Poisons. And then these increase your ceiling going second because these send Destrudo and make Black Rose and blow up fields. And you always resolve Black Rose against Sky Strikers. It's sometimes risky because you pay half your life points, but blowing up all their cards and then OTKing them after that is always worth it. So like people always ask how good this deck is going second. Count up the cards, do the math, think about it. I play this deck a lot, and it doesn't really struggle going second. Like, this is one of those decks where just like anything goes. It doesn't matter if it's going first or second. If it's going first, it's not really fair a lot of times because it makes really mean boards, and half the time you don't even need to establish 3 monsters, so spear molds are just a waste of a card. Evenly matched never gets resolved because you always negate it, and Twin Twister is just a dumb card to side in. So it's like, this deck is really hard to beat. Like, normally when I go first, I don't lose. It feels like I'm playing Herald of Perfection sometimes because I literally just go first and win. But when you're going second and, you know, games 2 and 3, that's when things change because different factors like vary, and then you have like different cards being played, cards being sided out and sided in. But nobody really knows how to side against Zephyrs. They just know they're pendulum, so they put in anti-spells if they side them. For traps, we play 2 Zephyr Divine Strike. This negates Spell Trapper Monster. It's pretty much, think of it as Infernity Barrier, but it's more broken because it's less of a restriction. All you have to do is banish the Zephyr from your extra deck. It's too easy to set up. It's the easiest of the counter traps to establish. I still play 9 Pillars. You require a Yang Zing to activate this, but it's still easy to do, but I just prefer the Divine Strike because a lot of the times I link away or Synchro Summon with the Zephyr Neo, but you still have to have this because this helps you out a lot. It's the most skillful of all counter traps that I've ever seen in my life. Negate and Shuffle is a lot better than Negate and Destroy, trust me. Some monster effects cannot resolve if they're being shuffled into the deck. Even if the card says, if it leaves the field, cards cannot activate or resolve in the deck. I promise you, it's a ruling, like specifically for that. And then we have Zephyr War. Zephyr War is a card I consider cutting sometimes, but you wouldn't believe how many wins you steal with this card because it's just, it pops, it's like a Drynant, and you can play it from hand when you have Zephyr Scale. So you just play it, pop, pop. It's really good. It outs Borload because Borload can be targeted by monsters, but it never said that traps can't hurt them. It just helps you to kind of just pick boards apart little by little, and it'll definitely save your life if they're swinging with like something that could just be the life of you and you don't want to take direct life points. You just play War from hand and kill it. So like sometimes I want to cut it, but ultimately it comes up so much. And then when you 9 Pillars your Zephyr Neo and then search this and play it from hand the same turn, it's really good. And being able to play this card from hand is another thing, high ceiling, because Light Stage cannot force you to activate this uncomfortably. You can activate this whenever you want because you can play it from hand. Light Stage cannot harm this. Naturally, Light Stage doesn't really do anything. Like, yeah, it can bait your traps, but you got to realize, like, you're trying to search a monster that I wouldn't negate it anyway. So I feel like my counter trap has fulfilled its purpose by stopping your Light Stage. And then we have the extra deck. We have 3 Electrums. Electrum's just amazing. I was playing 2 for a very, very long time. 3 just ended up being the number for me because a lot of games I would lose because this card allows me to OTK a lot. Like, my deck gets more aggressive once an Electrum comes out. If I don't make Electrum, I'm just Pendulum Summoning from hand, and I can make boards, but Electrum just makes them bigger and better. And when I'm trying to kill my opponent, making an Electrum will do the job. Just making one, you can probably get over 9,000 damage on board. Then we have Zefra Metaltron. It is a Zefra, so you can banish Providence, and it won't be destroyed, excuse me. Something really cool that people underestimate about this card is because they can't kill it, they have to kill what's under it. You add Ash Blossoms and Droll and Lockbirds from your grave to your hand. You even add back your Electrum from your grave to your extra deck. And it still wins when you're trying to kill your opponent because it can banish stuff. It's really good. Then Boar Load, because Boar Load solves a lot of problems. If stuff can't be targeted or destroyed, I either 9 Pillars it or I use the Boar Load, or I try to resort to something else. This card beats Gokis and Spirals. You make it with Earth, it literally says like they cannot play Yu-Gi-Oh! It's like making a monster that says you can't Pendulum Summon. That's how it would feel to me if I was playing against somebody who made a card like that one-sided. This card is, a lot of the times, it's either this or Calamities, but since this is easier to make than Calamities, and it gives you more, I guess you could say, more longevity because Calamities only last for 2 turns. This is like forever. And then if it dies, it adds a tuner. So it's like so much better to make this against Gokis. Because like all their monsters are Earth. They can't use Earth monsters effects. They can't use the Grave effects on field, anything like that. They can make you Soul Day, but what's the point? You're not getting any resources. Then you have these little guys, Cloud Castle and Gothams. Gothams and Cloud Castle are part of a combo that makes True King of all Chlamydia, which is a rank 9 that every deck loses to. They all have to bow down and answer to it. This card is really good games 2 and 3 because it gives you information of what deck you're playing. Or even game 1, it's insane. Like when you make a board that they just can't beat you. And if they scoop, some smart players will scoop without letting you know what they're playing. Because if you know that you can't win, there's no point playing cards from your hand and letting me know what you're playing. So this will help me so I know what to side deck, even if they didn't reveal to me what they're playing. Then we have Black Rose, just still wins. Almost every deck right now can't make this. I can't really think of a deck that can even make it, and nobody plays it. So it's so unexpected. Nobody plays around Black Rose. This card could literally define a format. Think of it like Shut-Off Fusion. Like, people play around Shut-Off Fusion. When you establish your board and your cards are able to be destroyed by card effects, Black Rose is so one-sided. It's like not the equivalent to Exciton Knight. I can't compare it to that, but it's a good replacement because it'll still destroy all cards on the field. Then we have Don Dragster. It negates spell traps or the effects of them. So even if they're on the field, he can negate it anyways. And he stops graveyard effects like Manifestation. He can even hit, for example, a Reincarnation to special from grave. Then we've got Yazi. The fact that this guy can't be targeted makes him just that much more of a beast. He can pop, and he can pop cards like Scrap Dragon, and then if he dies, he specials a Yang Zing from deck. Then you got True King of all Chlamydia. Every deck loses to this. There's no deck in the meta right now that just doesn't lose to this. Like, it's just an auto win. Then you have Naruto. And, like, nobody thinks Zephyrs can make this. Like, honestly, the only deck that can make this other than mine is probably Dinos. And Dinos are not that popular right now. So nobody plays around Calamities. Nobody plays around Black Rose. Nobody's making boards full of negates no more. So, like, people are just worried about being extra linked. I feel like having 3 to 4 negates is better than me extra linking you. Because, like, I know guaranteed you're only playing with 2 cards now. And then Naruto is just amazing. We have Vortex because he's just so good. Putting your stuff back is amazing. And he's a pretty decent body. So he helps you first turn setup, second turn kill. And this card is how I never lose to time. In a match procedures don't matter now because I have a better way to burn. Even better than Trickstars. The little 200 here and there. This card inflicts 200 damage for each card on the field and destroys a monster and burns for its attack. Like, that's just retarded to me, bro. And you can still attack with this after that if you want to. So it's either main phase 2, cleanup, you know, or you just, they're like, time of the round. This phase is your last phase. And you're like, oh, I'm in main phase. Okay, and they're like, hey, good game, bro. You're like, hold up, stop. Let me finish my turn. Make this, win. Then your side deck. Well, this is what I'm side decking right now. So this is for the extra link. I'm playing 3 Spear Modes, 3 Cyber Dragons, and 3 Evenlies. These are all, well, these are specifically for the extra link. Cyber Dragon clears 4 problems. It gets rid of the Link Kuribo, and it gets rid of the Nightmare Mermaid, and it turns Trigate's negation off. That's already 3 problems solved. And then the 4th problem is the Mega Fleet that you make, it's gonna attack over the monster that's doing the most damage. Like the monster that provides, for example, I don't know if it's a goblin or whatever, unless the cards just say once per turn they can't be destroyed by battle. But remember, when you break the co-link, some stuff can be destroyed by battle now. So it can potentially solve 4 problems, and you don't normal summon. That's what makes it even better. So this card's pretty awesome. It can still wins, and I like it also because you can still pendulum summon it from hand for damage. So it's pretty good no matter how you know, whatever scenario you draw it in. And then evenly is pretty good against like everything. The extra link boards, pretty cool because you can even use Cyber Dragon plus evenly because you can Cyber Dragon make your Mega Fleet. You can even do Mega Fleet with only 1, put them at 1200, and you take the monster that Trigate that makes them co-link by 3, then you crash into something little, and then you evenly at the end of battle phase. They're like Trigate negate. You're like, but wait, it's only co-link by 2. What are you talking about? Oh yeah. So evenly is pretty good against like almost everything. It's the most universal side deck going second card basically. And then we have 3 red reboots for back row heavy decks and just weird stuff. Like I can think of a lot of decks that it hits, but I think what comes to mind a lot is Altergeist. But people will side deck this against me, so when I'm going first, I could just set this, make them pay half their life points just to reboot their reboot, and then my counter traps stay live. So this deck is pretty solid because also its negations are not always monsters. So like I said, like spear mode, I've never really been spear moded. I'm grateful God that I don't have any stories where I got spear moded or evenly matched. Luckily, this has never been resolved on me. I never leave myself susceptible to it. I always play around spear mode, unless it's game 1, you know, like round 1, game 1. And then like this has been attempted a lot. Like people open evenly against me so much, I hate it. And every time I just think, if I wasn't playing Zefras, I probably would have just lost right now. But you open up negations, and I always make sure that 2 or 3 of my negations can actually hit the evenly. Like Jackal King can't stop evenly, but Don Dragster, Vortex, and Zephyr Divine Strike and 9 Pillars all can. And then you have the Spice. So first, Zephyr Path. This card basically, you activate it by shuffling all monsters you control back into the deck except for Zephyr monsters. So if you make Electrum, you use his effect, and then you put them back so you can use them again. And then also, you can only activate it while you have Zephyr scales that are 1 and 7. You can do that really easily. And then, pretty much while it's on the field, neither player can special summon monsters except from the hand or the extra deck. So, oh yeah, then it can be targeted by effects while you have cards in your Pendulum Zone. So like, it's really good. It's like a floodgate. So, first of all, obviously it's spicy. Zephyr players don't run this card, but I think it's amazing. Now, I'll tell you why I play it. I play this to shut down Rematch, Soul Charge, 1-for-1, Monster Reborn, Reincarnation, Scapegoat, Hornet Drones, Double Helix, effects that special summon from the deck a lot, effects that special summon from the grave a lot. This puts a massive restriction on Goki and Trickstar specifically, because now, think of a Trickstar player. They open, you know, they're a Scapegoat deck. They can't Scapegoat, they can't Hornet Drones. They can Licorice, that's pretty much it. They can't even Firewall OTK you because they can't loop. Wait, no, you know what? I think that they can, but we negate forever anyway, so that's out of the picture. But this limits so many plays for a lot of decks, especially Gokis. They can't even resolve Isolde. They can't resolve evenly match. They can only summon from hand or extra deck, so they can make Isolde, but that's it. Even if they make the Firewall, it doesn't even matter. They don't have enough monsters to keep summoning. Like, it's crazy. Like, and you just stop the Firewall anyways. So this is a massive restriction against so many decks. And then when you play against like graveyard decks or decks that thrive off of special summoning from the main deck or the graveyard, this is like a floodgate that you can protect because Zephyr Providence stops any Zephyr cards from being destroyed. So it's not amazing all the time, but you wouldn't believe how many wins that you'll steal with it. So this is a new tech. I'm really testing it out, and it's actually successful. And then we have Secret Village. This is never not live. I have, for one, I have 4 terraformings, 3 terraformings, so that makes 4 of this. And I'm just going to establish this. This plus Jackal King is more than enough to beat any Trickstar Sky Striker player. They can't resolve Candina, and they can literally play no spells. And if you want to make it worse, just slap a purple poison so that they literally can't even attack over the Jackal King to break the lock. And you play spellcasters that you can send to your extra deck and add back and Pendulum Summon, and just, it's crazy. Like, it's never dead. This is better than Spellcaster, it's better than Sky Scorch, Imbecile, and it's better than Anti-Spell because it's one-sided. It doesn't hurt me, but it hurts everything meta right now. Then we have Mega Fleet because it's part of the Cyber Dragon package. But yeah, you guys, definitely tell me what you think. Give your honest opinion and feedback on this deck profile. I'm working really hard to make this deck awesome. I've considered these cards for my side deck, but I'm still testing it, and I still need space for, I think, shared rights. But I really do like this build. I'm enjoying it a lot. I think one of the best improvements to my side deck are just these two cards alone. They're one-offs that have high value and increase your ceiling, because this is searchable through 15 cards in your deck, and this is searchable through the terraformings, and it establishes a lock. I might actually consider playing 2 of it, because going first with this is an auto win. I'm like, it's really easy to win with this deck. People underestimate this deck so much, but I am actually grateful that nobody plays Zefras, because I don't have to worry about my deck getting hit on the ban list. God bless you guys. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. You definitely will be hearing from me soon. And this is the build I'm taking to Nationals. So hopefully I'll see you guys there. Peace.